Welcome back to the dojo and welcome back to another 10-Minute Tuesday episode. I'm your host, Matt Lear, and I want to introduce a question that I think if we ask ourselves every single day will help us reach our goals, not only in the woods, but also in life. And this idea came up after recording a podcast with the Runnin' and Gunnin' podcast. We collaboed. They did part 1. We did part 2. If you haven't listened to that, it got dropped last Friday. Go back and listen to it. And first, you're going to want to go over to the Runnin' and Gunnin' podcast with Justin Sinan, listen to part 1, and then head over to the dojo. I believe it's episode 23, and listen to part 2 there. And the idea of that podcast was, what are the characteristics that we have found while interviewing these elite hunters? Because we do get the benefit of talking to guys who are like that next level. And I think Justin is definitely that next level type of guy as well. I would not put myself in that category. So it's been a huge benefit for me to sit there and pick the brains of these elite guys. And one of the biggest attributes that stand out to me is that they go out and they press the envelope. And they do not have a fear of failure. In fact, I think they seek it out. And so the question we can ask ourselves every day is this: how did I fail today? And it sounds crazy to ask yourself that question because we've been programmed to think that failure is a bad thing. But actually, failure is the building blocks to success. It's the path we need to walk through in order to get to the goal. I mean, it's very rare that you just, go after it your first try and then get it. I mean, it does happen, but my son went turkey hunting this year. It was his first time going hunting. I don't turkey hunt. I'm really focused in on the whitetails. So I called my friend Chris and he set us up. He set us up on, we knew where the turkeys were roosting. He put a tent up and Everett goes out. He shoots the gun a couple times, gets comfortable with it. We go into the tent. 10 minutes after being in the tent, here comes a tom. And it's a nice one. It's big beard, big tom. He's running right for the decoy. And what we didn't know is that there was a hen behind our blind. And so the tom detours around us to the hen. And so we've got to unzip the window behind us. It's a very chaotic scene. By the way, I lost my mind. Like, I had more buck fever in that moment is what it felt like than I did, with any deer that I've had in front of me. The thought of my son getting his first kill, I just, man, I fell apart. But anyways, let's get back to the point. So we've got to turn everything around. Everett now has to take the gun off of the rest, and he's halfway bent over and he's shooting through, a bunch of branches, and he's trying to get a clear shot. And I'm in his ear, not making it any better. And he shoots and he misses. And after he missed, I looked at him and I was like, man, I'm so glad you missed. Because if you would have came out here within 10 minutes and shot the turkey, I don't know if he would actually hunt again, because it wasn't challenging. It didn't help him develop. It was just killing. And I know we think the goal when we go out is to kill a big buck, right? Is it really? I mean, is that really the motivation? When I ask myself that question, I mean, I know the answer really clear, and it's part of the nucleus of this podcast. For me, it's about developing, about reaching my fullest potential in the woods and in life. I mean, that's the mission statement of the dojo. And so in order to do that, we have to go through and we have to fail and learn so that we can develop. So failure is a good thing. The fear of failure is what freezes us up. I'm going to tell another story. So early in my career, I had the worst case of fear of failure than anyone I knew. I had so much pressure. I put it all on myself to go out and kill a big buck that I was afraid that I was going to make a mistake. I was afraid that I was going to get too close, blow the deer out, mess up the woods, never get my shot, be ruined for the whole season. And so I constantly played it safe. The win absolutely had to be perfect. And it's also what motivated me to buy a bunch of gimmicky stuff, because I wanted every advantage that I possibly could get so I wouldn't make a mistake, which in itself was a mistake. You've heard me talk about that. But I was so far back from the action that I actually went years without really getting to understand, mature deer because I never saw them. I would get lucky with, a few does or, a couple young bucks. But even with the young bucks for a lot of the years, I was out of the action. I could just see them from far away. I was too scared to make a move and mess up. And then, I got past that and I realized I needed to, I think it was out of desperation. I was just like, I've got to make something else happen here. And so I started to press the envelope and say, screw it, man. If I fail, I fail, but it's not, what I'm doing isn't working right now. And I started to get more aggressive. And guess what? I failed big. I remember I was out of state. I was in Indiana and I was scouting a piece. I was and that's kind of my style now. I still do this, but I was scouting my way in and, stand on the back. I got my bow and I scouted my way through the whole property. I blew the whole thing out. Well, then I did that a couple more times and I realized, man, okay, this isn't working. I got to learn how to effectively scout a property without blowing the whole thing out. So I started to study maps a little bit more, formulating a game plan, focusing on key areas. And then I would blow a little less of it out and a little less of it out until the point where I could kind of get the feel for how hard I needed to push on the property. And I'm still learning. I still press that envelope. I did it again last year and found out, man, I still have a ways to go. I can actually go a little bit further. And so when I started to do that and I started to learn, man, my success skyrocketed. And it really wasn't because all of a sudden I learned the secrets of the deer woods. I mean, I guess I started to learn them, but it wasn't like a magic wand. It was just that I just got myself there into the action. I moved past my fear and I got in there. And yeah, I probably messed up some hunts. But by learning, I've put myself in way more hunts than what I was in before. I'm pretty confident now that I can get in the action almost anywhere I go. And honestly, I don't think that highly of myself as far as my hunting skills go. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if we can get past the fear of failure and embrace failure as a learning opportunity, and when we ask ourselves that question, how did I fail today? It is a temperature gauge to know if we're pressing enough. If we can't find failure, that means we're not challenging ourselves enough. And you can apply this concept to all of your life, just not the deer woods. Like how have I, have I tested myself with a new skill at work? I can get really comfortable just doing my thing and being the expert in my area. But man, if I'm going to grow in opportunities, then I need to develop new skills, which means I'm going to fail a little bit when I test those things out. So that's it. It's a really simple question to ask ourselves every day. How have I failed today? And get over the fear of failure, because one thing I learned is that the fear of failure was way worse than the actual failure. I never wrecked the season by moving in and pressing the envelope. I might have wrecked the day, but I learned, and then my season would open up. So that's it. That's all. We are close to 10 minutes here. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that collaboration we did with the Running and Gunning podcast, go ahead and do that. It was an awesome podcast where we talk about, these top characteristics of these elite hunters that we've gotten to interview. The other thing that I would really like you to help us out with is if you could share our content. It's really hard to get past the algorithms, and it's a lot of work to try to grow the dojo. And I don't have sponsors, and I'm going to try to stay sponsor free. I've actually made a commitment to do that. And so I really would love if you would partner with us and share this as much as possible and as often as possible. It would be a huge help to us. And we'll see you on Thursday with another Whitetail Master, and then back again next Tuesday.